The federal government never cleared Terry Rozier. If you're the Heat, you made a decision to go in on this guy.
They are on leave, which means you're being questioned and investigated about having done something bad, but we'll still pay you every 2 weeks. If I'm Adam Silver, I'm a little despondent today because my league is really the one that keeps getting caught, and he's going to have to do something about it.
From the past week, everyone from Stephen A. Smith to your papa at the dinner table has been asking the same exact question. Why?
Why?
Why would Terry Rozier, a guy who's made over $160 million in his NBA career, risk it all to help his boys win some prop bets? Why would a player earning $26 million this season throw away his entire reputation, his career, his legacy, for what prosecutors say was around a 100 grand split between a bunch of people? The math just simply wasn't mathing. The risk versus reward was completely upside down. It was like watching someone rob a bank for 20 bucks. Sports media spent days trying to figure it out. Was it addiction? Was it stupidity? Was it greed? Charles Barkley and Kenny the Jet Smith literally got into an argument on Inside the NBA about whether this was a gambling problem or just pure idiocy.
Gambling is an addiction. The addiction of it is what makes you make illogical decisions.
You're making me mad right here.
Well, I just have my opinion. You're going to have yours.
The reason I'm mad at Kenny is, man, this ain't got nothing to do with damn gambling addiction. These dudes are stupid.
Why are they stupid?
Under no circumstances can you fix basketball games. Under no circumstances. Rozier makes $26 million. Him betting, giving people information or taking himself out of games, how much money is he gonna make?
Well, if he did that, you're proving my point.
What do you mean? That
means
that's
that
not
it's an
addiction.
illogical thought process.
No. That's not addiction. That's stupidity. You trying to make sure these guys being addicted. You can't fix basketball games. The notion that guys are making all this money and giving information, come on, man, stop that. Ain't got nothing to do with addiction. That's just total stupidity on these two dudes.
But yesterday, everything changed because ESPN dropped a bombshell that answers that question. And suddenly, this whole story makes a lot more sense. Terry Rozier owed the IRS $8.2 million in unpaid taxes. The federal tax lien was filed in November of 2023, just 8 months after the game, where he allegedly faked an injury to help gamblers win big on his unders. $8 million. This story isn't about greed anymore, it's about desperation. So real quick before we get to the content, if you want to get the latest on this bizarre story, make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? What? It's a comfortable shirt. Leave me alone. Let's talk about what we know. According to county clerk records obtained by ESPN, the IRS filed this massive tax lien against Rozier in Broward County, Florida, where he owns a $5.3 million home. The lien was for the 2021 tax year, which means Rozier had been dealing with this debt for a while before it became official. Now, here's how tax liens work, and I talked to a tax attorney about this. Before the IRS files a lien, they send you multiple past due notices. You know about this debt for months, maybe years, before it becomes public record. Florida tax attorney Steve Klitzner told ESPN that the lien would have been filed after past due notices were sent to the taxpayer. It shouldn't be a surprise to them. So Terry Rozier knew that he owed this money. He'd been getting letters from the IRS. He'd been stressed about it. And in March of 2023, when he allegedly told his childhood friend De Niro Laster that he was going to fake an injury and leave a game early, he was staring down the barrel of an $8 million debt. But wait, it gets even more complicated. Records also show that Rozier had a construction lien filed against him in August of 2022 for $271,000. He was having work done on his Florida mansion, and by July of 2023, he paid off $250,000 of that debt. But that leaves $21,000 still unpaid, plus the massive IRS bill hanging over his head. Now, Rozier's attorney Jim Trusty is pushing back hard on all of this. Trusty told ESPN that Terry never owed anyone $8 million. He owed $9,000 of the total $8 million in taxes from 2021, and it has been paid. We just need the IRS to help remove the now defunct lien. But here's the thing, and I want to be really clear about this. Trustee hasn't provided any clear documentation to back up this claim. The lien is still on file with the county clerk. By law, the IRS has to remove a lien within 30 days of the debt being paid, and there's no lien release on record. So either Rozier still owes this money, or the paperwork is in process, or trustee's telling the truth and the IRS just hasn't caught up yet. But let me tell you something about the IRS. They don't file $8 million tax liens for $9,000 debts. That's not how this works. Tax liens are public records. They're nuclear options. The government doesn't throw around 8-figure liens unless if they mean it. So let's assume for a second that Terry Rozier really did owe something close to that $8 million figure. Maybe not the full amount, but millions. Now we have to think about the timeline. March 23, 2023, Rozier fakes an injury, leaves the Hornets game after 9 minutes, and helps gamblers win over $200,000 in prop bets. His cut, according to the indictment, was around $100,000 after his friend De Niro Laster sold the information to bettors. November 2023, the IRS files an $8.2 million tax lien against him. Do you see it now? This wasn't about being greedy when you're already rich. This was about drowning in debt and being desperate for any money that you can get. Think about it from Rozier's perspective. You're making $26 million a year, but after taxes, agents, financial advisors, and everything else, you're taking home maybe half of that. You've got an $8 million IRS bill, you've got construction liens, you've got a lifestyle to maintain, and your childhood friend comes to you and says, "Hey man, I think I could get you out of this jam that you're in. You just got to give us a little bit of a heads up whenever you're feeling like you're gonna have an off night or if you're gonna have an injury. Just give me a heads up if you're sitting a game." 100 grand sounds like nothing when you're making $26 million, but when you owe $8 million to the federal government, suddenly that $100,000 starts looking really important. And this is exactly what happened with Jonte Porter, by the way. Porter had gambling debts. He got in over his head, and then the people he owed money to said, "You know what? You don't have to pay us. Just give us a little bit of information." That's how these things work. You start off owing money, and then that debt becomes leverage. Now, we don't know if Rozier had gambling debts on top of the IRS situation because his attorney keeps saying that Terry is not a gambler. But you know what? You don't need to be a gambler to be desperate for money. Tax debt is tax debt, and $8 million of it, that's desperation. But this story doesn't end with the tax revelation, because while we're all trying to figure out why Rozier did what he allegedly did, there's a massive fight happening right now between the NBA and the Players Association, and this fight could determine whether Rozier ever plays basketball again. So here's what happened. Last week, after Rozier and Chauncey Billups got arrested, the NBA immediately placed both of them on leave. That was expected. What wasn't expected was what came next. On Wednesday, sources told ESPN that Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups would not be paid while they're on leave. Rozier was supposed to get the first installment of his $26.6 million salary this week. Instead, that money is being held in an interest-bearing account pending the resolution of his legal case. Now, the NBA's position is pretty straightforward. They're saying, look, we can't have a guy facing wire fraud and money laundering charges continuing to collect an NBA paycheck. It's bad for the league, it's bad for the Heat, and we need to wait to see what happens in court. And honestly, I get it. From a PR perspective, from an integrity perspective, it makes sense. The optics of paying a player millions while he's fighting gambling corruption charges are terrible, but the National Basketball Players Association is not having it.
Like the NBA talked to all parties involved, the Heat, the Trailblazers, other officials, and landed on the decision today to pull both Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups' salaries. It's essentially, Malika, an unpaid administrative leave. So that's $26.6 million for Terry Rozier and $7 million for Chauncey Billups. Both will not be paid out this season as of now. The one difference between the two, though, my understanding, Terry Rozier's salary will be placed in an escrow. He's going to receive it or not based on the outcome of the FBI charges. Billups' salary, though, is not going to be placed in an escrow. So he's going to lose money. He will not see it per paycheck depending on the outcome and when this outcome will happen. As reported, Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups' representatives have said they're both innocent, that they're going to fight the charges. I'm told this process could take at minimum 6 to 12 months.
The NBPA released a statement through ESPN Shams Charania that basically declared war on the league's decision. Here's what they said. While we are in agreement with the league that upholding the integrity of the game is of the utmost importance, their decision to place Terry on leave without pay is counter to the presumption of innocence and inconsistent with the terms of our collective bargaining agreement. We plan to challenge their decision via the proper channels. Translation is, we're taking this to arbitration and we think we're gonna win. Now this is fascinating because it raises a huge question about what NBA teams can and can't do when players get in legal trouble. The collective bargaining agreement is really clear about certain things. Players have guaranteed contracts. You can't just decide not to pay someone because you don't like what they did. But there are also conduct clauses, like when Ja Morant got suspended without pay because he decided to post a story of him flexing a weapon multiple times. Donald Sterling was banned from the NBA permanently, so there is precedent for the league taking action. The question is, does an arrest trigger those clauses, or do you have to be convicted first? The NBPA is arguing that you have to be convicted, that the presumption of innocence means the NBA can't punish you until a court says you're guilty. And technically, they're right. In America, you've heard this multiple times. You're innocent until proven guilty. But the NBA is saying that we're not punishing him. We're protecting the integrity of the game while the legal process pays out. And if he's found innocent, he'll get every penny we're holding. This is going to be a massive legal battle. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea who wins. On one hand, the CBA is the CBA. It's a binding contract between the league and the players. If it doesn't allow for this kind of suspension without pay, then the NBA might lose. On the other hand, federal wire fraud and money laundering charges related to gambling on NBA games, that's about as serious as it gets. This isn't a DUI. This isn't even domestic violence, which the league has struggled to handle in the past. This is literally trying to fix games for money. If the NBA can't suspend someone without pay for that, then when can they? And here's where it gets really interesting for the Miami Heat. According to multiple reports, the Heat are not getting any immediate salary cap relief from this situation. Terry Rozier's $26 million still counts against their cap. They're right up against the luxury tax line, and they can't even sign a 15th man without going into the tax. So the Miami Heat are stuck. They're paying luxury tax on a player that they can't use, they can't replace him, they can't get cap relief, they just have to sit there and hope that this gets resolved quickly. And if Rozier's found guilty, then his contract can be voided, and the Miami Heat can finally move on. But that could take years. Federal cases don't move fast. Jonte Porter pleaded guilty and he's still waiting to be sentenced. The Heat are in absolute limbo. They gave up draft picks to get Rozier. They were counting on him to be a key rotation player, and now he might never play for them again, but they're still paying the price. But wait, there's more, because while the NBA and the NBPA are fighting over Rozier's paycheck, the United States Senate has officially entered the conversation. On Tuesday, Senate Commerce Committee Chairman Ted Cruz and Ranking Member Maria Cantwell sent a letter to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver demanding answers about this entire scandal. And I mean, you can just tell based off of how Adam Silver responded to the Amazon broadcast this past week that he is really getting flustered by this situation.
So what happened was, because bets were placed through legal betting companies, they picked up aberrational behavior around a particular game in March of 23. We frankly couldn't find anything, and we ultimately concluded that there was insufficient evidence despite that aberrational behavior.
And I mean, get this, Congress is demanding answers about this entire scandal. And when I say demanding, I mean, they gave him a deadline. He has until November 10th. That's not a request. That's Congress telling the NBA, you have 2 weeks to explain what the hell happened here. The letter is actually pretty damning. Let me read you some of this. Cruz and Cantwell wrote that Americans love basketball because it is fast-paced and unpredictable. A star player can catch fire. A single foul can shift the energy on the court. And a last-minute buzzer beater can decide it all. That volatility is the sport's magic, and precisely why allegations that current and former NBA players and coaches compromise the game's integrity are so troubling. They continued and said that this committee needs to understand the specifics of the NBA's investigation and why Rozier was cleared to continue playing basketball. This is a matter of congressional concern. The integrity of NBA games must be trustworthy and free from the influence of organized crime or gambling-related activity. Sports betting scandals like this one may lead the American public to assume that all sports are corrupt. I mean, bro, I'm just gonna say that James Harden's over-under for points when he faced off against the Golden State Warriors was 20.5. He went into the half with 20 points. He needed one more point for his over to hit. He didn't get a single freaking point for the rest of the game. What's up with that? That last line is brutal. May lead the American public to assume that all sports are corrupt. That's Congress basically saying that your gambling problem is becoming America's trust problem. And they're asking some really specific questions. They want to know exactly what the NBA knew about Rozier, when they knew it, and why they let him keep playing. They want to know about the NBA's investigation versus the FBI's investigation. They want to know what regulations are in place to prevent this. Here's the thing that really got Congress fired up. The NBA investigated Rozier in 2023 after sportsbooks flagged suspicious activity on his prop bets. The league looked into it and said they found insufficient evidence of wrongdoing. They cleared him. Meanwhile, the FBI was conducting their own investigation, and the FBI had enough evidence to arrest him on federal charges. So either the NBA's investigation was incompetent, or they didn't have access to the same evidence that the FBI had, or they chose to clear him even though they had doubts. And Congress wants to know which one it was. The NBA responded this week by sending a memo to all 30 teams saying that they're reviewing their injury reporting policies. They're looking at how prop bets should be regulated. They're trying to get ahead of this, but that memo came out before the congressional letter. Now Adam Silver has to actually go on record and explain to the United States Senate what happened. And I'm telling you, that's gonna be must-watch C-SPAN. I mean, I honestly think I'm gonna do a live stream when it goes down, because here's what Congress is really asking. Can we trust professional sports anymore? The sports gambling industry in the United States is massive. $160 billion was wagered on sports last year. That's more than people spent on lottery tickets. The NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, they all have multi-billion-dollar partnerships with DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetMGM. The leagues are making money hand over fist from gambling, but they're also losing control of the integrity of their games. And Congress is starting to ask whether maybe we moved too fast on this whole legalized sports betting thing. And speaking about moving too fast on gambling, can we speak about the NCAA for a second? Because their timing on all this is ridiculous. I mean, it might be the worst I've ever seen. On October 22nd, the NCAA announced that starting on November 1st, college athletes would be allowed to bet on professional sports. Not college sports, just pro sports. NBA, NFL, MLB, whatever. The NCAA's reasoning was basically, look, sports gambling is legal now in most states. Our athletes are adults. They should be able to do what their classmates can do. That announcement came out on October 22nd. Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier were literally arrested the very next day. The NCAA had one day of breathing room before the biggest NBA gambling scandal in decades proved exactly why their decision was insane. NCAA President Charlie Baker tried to defend it. He said, "This change recognizes the realities of today's sports environment without compromising our commitment to protecting the integrity of college competition or the well-being of student athletes." Cool. Great. But here's the problem. College athletes have relationships with professional players. They work out together. They train together. They're in group chats together. You're telling me that a junior in college who played AAU ball with a current NBA player isn't going to hit him up and say, "Yo, how's your ankle doing tonight?" And that NBA player might say, "Yeah, man, I'm good." Or you might say, "Actually, I'm probably sitting this one out." And boom, just like that, you've got inside information. Information that could be worth a lot of money to the right people. CNN wrote a piece about this that really nailed the problem. They pointed out that in the federal indictment, Damon Jones sent a text to his co-conspirators saying, "Get a big bet on Milwaukee tonight before the information is out. Player 3 is out tonight." Player 3 was LeBron James. Jones knew LeBron wasn't playing because he worked out with them before games. He had access, and he used that access to make money. Now imagine college athletes with the same kind of access, except they're broke, they're young, and they just got told that it's totally cool to bet on pro sports. What could possibly go wrong? The NCAA tried to say they'll have educational programs about responsible gambling. They emphasize that while NCAA members do not encourage student athletes to engage in sports betting behaviors of any kind, the timing is right to modernize these rules. The timing is right? The timing? You announced this the day before the FBI arrested Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups. I gotta be honest with you, I think the NCAA panicked here. I think they were losing court cases, losing control of their athletes, and they made a desperate move to seem more reasonable. And it blew up in their faces immediately, because now every parent of a college athlete is watching this Terry Rozier story and thinking, that could be my kid. Every athletic director is having emergency meetings about monitoring their players' gambling activities. Every compliance officer is trying to figure out how to enforce rules that they just loosened. The NCAA could still reverse course. They could delay the November 1st implementation, but my guess is that they won't, because that would mean admitting that they made a mistake, and the NCAA never admits mistakes. But you know who's really paying attention to all this? NBA players, and they're starting to realize that the gambling boom isn't just a league problem or a Terry Rozier problem, it's a player safety problem. Jaylen Brown spoke to reporters on Friday, and what he said should worry every single person who cares about the NBA. Brown is the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association, so he's not just speaking for himself, he's speaking for all players, and he is pissed.
That whole world was introduced a couple years ago, and I don't think they took players into consideration, especially with the energy and the behavior that goes around, gambling and how that directly correlates with players. We don't benefit from any of the profits or anything like that, but we got to deal with a lot of the extra negativity and scrutiny behind all the gambling stuff. And then on top of that, it creates more integrity issues. I don't think yet once from my conversations with the union as the NBA has been like, how can we protect players more with the environment? There's been little to no conversation around that. It's all about how can we increase business and increase revenue. And I'm not sure, if we're having enough conversations of how can, what is the aftermath or the consequences some of that stuff has.
That's a guy calling out his own league. That's an all-star, an NBA champion, a leader in the players' union saying the NBA sold us out for gambling money and didn't prepare us for what came next. And he's got a point, because the fan experience has changed dramatically at NBA games ever since sports gambling has been introduced. Players are hearing different stuff from the crowd right now. I mean, look at what Nikola Vucevic had to say about it.
Before you used to hear hey, Vuce, get a win, or hey, do this and that. Now it's hey, my parlay is 10 rebounds. And he honestly, it pisses me off because it's disrespectful to the game.
And bro, he's not lying. I mean, take a look at this viral preseason clip. I mean, this is diabolical. Look at what this fan had to say sitting courtside at an Orlando Magic preseason game to Paolo Banchero.
Come on, Pablo, I need 2 more points, homie. 2 more points, you carry my parlay.
Jaylen Brown described it like this.
I think a lot more could have been done to help players or prepare players, but even in the aftermath, I don't think little care or attention to detail goes into it. They're you make X amount of money or X, Y, and Z, you should be able to deal with all the extra negativity, the people approaching you about parlays. It creates a negative discourse around the game and players when people have money involved.
The NBA's response? NBA spokesman Mike Bass told reporters that protecting the safety of players and coaches has always been of critical importance. League security works with team officials and law enforcement to respond to any type of fan behavior that violates our code of conduct. Whether that's in arenas or online, we have put safeguards in place, including social media monitoring, to track and mitigate any potential threats or safety risks. Cool. Social media monitoring. Yeah. I'll fix it. Here's the reality. The NBA partnered with gambling companies because it made the money. Direct sponsorship deals between sports leagues and sportsbooks are worth billions of dollars. Teams have betting shops inside their arenas. The league promotes prop bets during broadcasts. There are some YouTubers that are actually sponsored by these companies. What? But the NBA created this environment, and now players are dealing with the consequences while the league counts the money. And here's the worst part. The NBA can't really do anything about it without giving up revenue. Prop bets on individual player performance are the most profitable bets for sportsbooks. Those are the ones that keep people engaged. Those are the ones that make the gambling companies want to partner with the NBA. So the league has to choose. Do they protect the integrity of their game and the safety of their players, or do they keep the gambling money flowing? Right now, it seems like they're trying to have it both ways, and players like Jaylen Brown are calling them out for it. Let me tell you about something that came up in the Pablo Torre podcast that really stuck with me. Torre had former Miami Marlins president David Samson on the show, and Samson explained something that most people don't understand about how teams handle player injuries. Teams literally cannot verify pain. If a player says his foot hurts, what are they supposed to do? You can see swelling, you can see bruising, you can see a cut, but you can't see pain, and this is the exact loophole that Terry Rozier allegedly exploited. According to the indictment, on March 23, 2023, injury, Rozier told his friend De Niro Laster that he was planning to leave the game early with a fake injury. Then during the game, he played 9 minutes, hit a jumper, and suddenly grabbed his foot like he was in pain. The federal indictment says that Rozier did not appear to land awkwardly when he hit that jumper or show any other discomfort in the moment ahead of the shot. He just grabbed his foot and limped off. What's the training staff supposed to do? Call him a liar? If Rozier says his foot hurts, they have to take him out of the game. That's how sports medicine works. Dr. Tarek Soryal, the former Dallas Mavericks team physician, told NBC News that if the player says he can't go in the first quarter, he doesn't go. We can't see pain. You can see swelling, you can see bruising, you can see a cut, but you can't see pain. So here's the problem. The entire prop betting market is built on player statistics. Points, rebounds, assists, minutes played, all of it can be manipulated by a player who's willing to sit out or underperform. And teams can't stop it. They can't force a player to play through pain. They can't accuse a player of faking unless they have proof. And by the time they have proof, the bets have already been placed and the money has already changed hands. This is why the Jonte Porter case was such a big deal. Porter allegedly faked illness to leave games early so bettors could win big on his unders. He claimed he was sick, he played a few minutes, and then he sat out. The team couldn't do anything about it, and now teams are wondering how many other players have done this. How many times has a guy sat out with a sore ankle or feeling under the weather because someone offered him money or inside information? The NBA says they're reviewing their injury reporting policies, but what are they going to do? Force players to play hurt? Require medical documentation for every minor injury? That's not realistic, and the players union would never allow it. So we're stuck with a system where players can manipulate their own statistics, teams can't stop them, and gamblers are making millions of dollars off of inside information. And here's the kicker. The NBA needs those prop bets. They need people betting on whether Terry Rozier will score over or under 13.5 points because that's what keeps fans engaged. That's what makes people watch games they wouldn't normally care about. So the league has created a system where the most profitable bets are also the easiest to manipulate, and they can't fix it without destroying their business model. So where do we go from here? Because this story is far from over. In fact, I think we're just getting started. First, there's the legal process. Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups have both pleaded not guilty. Their trials are probably months or even years away. Federal cases move slowly. Discovery, motions, plea negotiations, all of that takes time. Meanwhile, both of them are on unpaid leave. The NBPA is fighting that decision, so we might see an arbitration hearing soon. That could get really interesting, especially if the union wins and forces the NBA to pay Rozier while he's facing federal charges. Second, there's congressional investigation. Adam Silver has until November 10th to respond to the Senate Commerce Committee. That's less than 2 weeks away. And I'll be honest, I have no idea what he's gonna say. I mean, this guy seems to be panicking every single time they ask him about this situation. How do you explain clearing a player that the FBI arrested months later? How do you justify the NBA's investigation finding insufficient evidence when the federal government found enough evidence for wire fraud charges? My guess is Silver is going to point out that the NBA doesn't have subpoena power. They can't force people to turn over text messages or financial records. They have to rely on cooperation. And if everyone involved refused to cooperate with the NBA's investigation, there wasn't much that they could do. But that explanation is going to ring hollow to a lot of people because it basically admits that the NBA can't police its own sport. It admits that they're dependent on the FBI to catch cheaters. And if that's true, then what's the point of the NBA's integrity department? Third, the FBI investigation itself. Remember, the indictment mentions 9 unnamed co-conspirators. We go into this in depth in our previous video. 9 people who were involved in these schemes but haven't been charged yet. Who are they? Are they NBA players? Are they coaches? Are they staff? Are they trainers? We don't know, but the FBI said the investigation is ongoing, so there could be more arrests coming. FBI Assistant Director Christopher Rea called the indictments just the tip of the iceberg. Stephen A. Smith said the same thing. For once, hate to say this, but Stephen A. might be right. Fourth, there's the Malik Beasley situation. Beasley was under investigation for gambling-related issues, though his attorney said in August that he's no longer a target. But the fact that the NBA was looking into his betting on other sports shows that this problem is widespread. How many NBA players are betting on sports? How many have shared information with friends or family? We don't know, but the league has to be worried that this is more common than anyone wants to admit. And finally, there's the fundamental question of whether the NBA can survive in this environment. Can professional basketball maintain its integrity while being in business with with gambling companies? Can fans trust that what they're watching is real competition and not influenced by betting interests? I don't have the answer to that, but I know that trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild. And right now, a lot of fans are looking at NBA games differently. They're wondering if that weird coaching decision was really about strategy or if someone had money on the game. They're questioning whether that player is really injured or if he's helping his boys hit an under. I'm sorry, but James Harden not scoring a single point in the entire second half against the Golden State Warriors, that's pretty freaking shady. I'm sorry. But that doubt, that suspicion, that's the real damage here. It's not just about Terry Rozier or Chauncey Billups, it's about whether we can trust professional sports at all. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this? I apologize for the length of these videos. There's just so much to sift through, and I want to bring you guys everything. If you missed our last video and you want to go down this rabbit hole, I highly recommend you take a look into it because it kind of introduces the layers to this insane saga. I'm going to leave it in the end screen and I'll meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.